The political war is over. The congressional fight is finished. The White House has surrendered. But I am here to tell you that the most dangerous phase of the Epstein saga has just begun. Today, President Donald Trump is expected to sign the Epstein Files Transparency Act into law. This is the moment the populist movement fought for, forcing a 427-1 vote in the House and unanimous passage in the Senate. The public should be celebrating the impending release of the files, but they cannot. Because the ultimate, final block to the truth has been activated. The moment the pen hits the paper, the Department of Justice begins a 30-day countdown, not for full transparency, but for the deployment of a cynical, legally sophisticated weapon designed to bury the most damning information forever. My name is Rufus Brown, and I'm here to guide you through the final executive and legal showdown. This is the story of how the president, having lost the political battle, is now using the vast power of his attorney general and the legal code itself to implement the Smokescreen Defense. The question is no longer if the bill will become law, but whether the president's commitment to nothing to hide is just another lie to shield the powerful elite. The symbolic moment of the signing is a monumental victory for transparency advocates, but the clock ticking down the 30 days is all that matters now. The Epstein Files Transparency Act is straightforward in its command. It orders Attorney General Pam Bondi to publicly release all unclassified files related to the sprawling Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell investigations within 30 days of the bill becoming law. And critically, it explicitly bans the DOJ from withholding documents purely due to political embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. This part of the bill is airtight. But the devil is in the details, the necessary legal exceptions woven into the fabric of the law. The bill allows the Justice Department to withhold materials that would 1. Identify victims. 2. Depict child sexual abuse. 3. Would jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution. It is this third exception, the active investigation loophole, that has transformed the president's public concession into a legal trap for the American people. The president has publicly surrendered the political fight only to activate a more powerful mechanism of executive obstruction. The setup for the Smokescreen Defense began last week, immediately after the political heat became unbearable. Facing the certainty of a congressional mandate, President Trump publicly ordered Attorney General Pam Bondi to launch new federal investigations into his political rivals, specifically naming former President Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and the bank JP Chase for their ties to Epstein. This move was immediately decried as a gross weaponization of the Justice Department, given that the FBI had previously concluded that there was no information warranting an investigation against uncharged third parties. Yet Attorney General Bondi quickly acquiesced, assigning a top federal prosecutor to the task. She publicly stated she had received new information that compelled the launch of the probes, though she refused to elaborate on what that information was. This action, in my view, was not about catching criminals. It was about creating a legal shield. The Justice Department can now argue that the entire body of files, the 100,000 pages of logs, emails, and communications that could expose dozens of powerful figures, are now directly relevant to the newly minted active federal investigations into Bill Clinton and others. The power of this smokescreen defense is absolute because of how the law works. When the 30-day deadline hits, the DOJ will produce a public document dump. But I predict that dump will be heavily, almost comically, redacted. Every line mentioning the names of figures now under the new investigation or figures connected to them, or figures whose information might lead to them, can be legally withheld. The Justice Department will simply state that releasing the files would jeopardize an active federal investigation. This is how the delay becomes indefinite. The newly ordered investigation into the Democrats is likely not intended to produce an indictment. It is intended to remain active for as long as possible. As long as that investigation remains open, the DOJ can continue to withhold the information under the bill's own legal exception. The fight for transparency moves from a simple 30-day countdown to a years-long legal battle in the courts, with the burden of proof falling squarely on the victims' advocates and transparency groups to sue the Justice Department. And here is the ultimate legal irony. The president can claim the moral high ground by saying, "I signed the bill, and I also ordered the investigation into the Democrats. If the files aren't released, it's because my attorney general is protecting the integrity of a major investigation into political corruption." The smokescreen works perfectly, appeasing the base with the signing while preserving the secrets of the elite with the investigation. The congressional leaders who forced this bill, including the original Republican rebels like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, have already voiced their skepticism. But they also face a grim reality. The bill has no enforcement teeth. If the DOJ refuses to release the unredacted files, Congress's only recourse is to issue a new subpoena. If the DOJ ignores the subpoena, Congress could hold the Attorney General in contempt. But the power to prosecute, that contempt referral rests with the Department of Justice itself. In short, it would fall to Attorney General Pam Bondi to decide whether to prosecute herself or her deputies for following the very defense strategy the president ordered. The threat is empty. This is the ultimate test of the president's commitment. He can make the bill an act of historic transparency, or he can make it the most elaborate cover-up in executive history. The choice is his, and the consequences of his executive action will determine the final fate of the truth. The 427-1 victory against the executive was magnificent, but the fight for the redactions will be the real war. We are no longer debating whether the law exists. We are now fighting over how the law will be manipulated. The 30-day clock starts now. Every day for the next month is critical. We must monitor every statement from the DOJ, every hint of a delay, and every legal motion filed to protect the powerful. I am committed to tracking the Department of Justice every step of the way, analyzing the final document dump for the inevitable legal shield that will be used. To follow this final high-stakes battle and to understand the legal machinations being deployed, make sure you head over and subscribe to my dedicated playlist, The Trump-Epstein Saga. This is where you will find my continuous, in-depth analysis of the countdown. And for a fast, urgent recap of this entire legal showdown and the looming deadline, click the link right now to watch my 60-second short. The signing is the beginning, not the end. We will not look away.